You know, the internet is a two-edged sword. It's promoted as, you know what, get on the internet and you can live anywhere, you can have freedom, you can do this, you can do that, but you will also have a whole new set of challenges, you know, and this is one of them, and I just want to talk about that, you know, in this video. So remember that we learn more when things aren't working perfectly than when they're working perfectly, because when things are working perfectly, there's nothing to do. But when they're not working perfectly, there's a whole lot more to the issue, and there certainly is a lot to learn, isn't there? So that's why we make these videos, okay? We've been abroad 9 years now, living like year-round, full-time, in various different continents, and dealing with the things that you deal with when you move abroad. You're not just moving within your own country. There are certain things that you would have to do if you did that, but there's even more things you have to do when you do it outside, you know, of your own country and you're going abroad. Reports have come in of different experiences, and we also have some of those experiences are also our own. So we're going to talk about the new dictators. That's what we call them. We call them the new dictators because they act just like, it's just like being in a dictatorship when it comes to that particular issue. But it seems like after going abroad, some of these issues seem to happen more consistently and more repeatedly, and there's definitely something to it where you definitely are going to want to avoid these issues. I'm old school, okay? I came up during the age in the States where you got to know your banker. You know, you went in and you one-on-one shook hands, looked them in the eye, and you know, you established a relationship. You had a business relationship. He was able to confirm your relationship because you brought them your business. And so if there was ever any issue, you were able to go in, discuss things, and hash things out and smooth things over. But ever since going abroad, I've noticed something that, for example, even in Ecuador where we stayed for years, we stayed in Ecuador for 8 years, we noticed something about the banks there is that they change their people around all the time, even management. And so the result of that is that you never really established a relationship. And every time you went in, they always sent you to the front line, the tellers, you know. And of course the tellers, it doesn't matter if you've been doing business with them for 5 years, you're just a new guy, you know, you're just treated like a new guy. And if there's any issue, you don't get any special treatment, you don't get any service, okay? If you're, you know, if you insist on talking to the manager, it's the same with the manager. They don't really know you, you don't have a relationship. And just at the time when you built up a relationship, they get transferred or something, and then there's a new manager. So all of a sudden, you're asking for them to smooth something over, and you know, they don't know you long enough. So one report that came in was of a fellow that was banking offshore. With this particular fellow, he had been banking for a number of years, but all of a sudden he started traveling more, and he was out traveling, and he was asked to update his address. Well, because he wasn't in country, it was going to take him a little longer, so they froze his account. They demanded that he provide the address within a set period of time, and he was trying to ask for some service. Hey, give me a little more time, I'm traveling, I gotta go back home, and I'm not set up to do it over the internet. And then they blocked him, and it was like 4 months before he was unblocked from the account. He was so upset about it, he just shut down his account, even though it was initially perceived as a valuable relationship, offshore relationship. He decided to shut the account himself. He didn't wait. And that's another thing. When he was contacted by compliance over this address issue, he did provide an address. He always had an address for a number of years already. So the bottom line is that this wasn't a new account. This was a relationship that had already been established over a number of years. But they were so finicky, and particularly that they wouldn't budge. They wouldn't give him any room, some extra time to provide it. They were suspicious of that, you know, even after a number of years that he had a relationship that really he didn't have any transactions that were questionable. Everything was really just quite dormant, and you know, he wasn't doing anything he wasn't supposed to be doing. There was no reason to have any mistrust. Okay, so that's one thing. And then I've got another fellow that had an eBay account for like a 10-year-old eBay account. You know, same thing. good account, no issues, you know. But then they just without notice shut the account down, a 10-year-old account. They said, well, you know, they ran him around in circles and said, well, you can start a new account. So,
but why did they shut down the eBay account?
They don't tell you why they shut it down. It was an active account in the States, but then after he went abroad, he did use it for quite some time abroad too. So they let him use it. There was no surprise that he was abroad or anything. He had been abroad for a number of years and had been using the eBay account abroad. There was no issues. No issue was brought up. But then it sat dormant for about a year or so, and then he went back and he used it, and they said, hey, welcome back, you know, the little eBay thing, welcome back. But then as he kept going back, he was, you know, he had gone to different countries, and then all of a sudden it just got shut down. No reason was given to him, you know, and apparently I don't know. Nobody knows. Maybe they changed their policies, whatever. But the bottom line is that this is a relationship that it should have value. You think that you have a relationship, it's a 10-year-old. This is the age of the new dictators. You know, the internet is a two-edged sword. It's promoted as, you know what, get on the internet and you can live anywhere, you can have freedom, you can do this, you can do that. But you will also have a whole new set of challenges, you know, and this is one of them, and I just want to talk about that, you know, in this video. And if it's just one isolated incident, I probably wouldn't have made a video, but because I see it, you know, in different spheres, but they're all on the internet.
What about PayPal? Aren't they that same way?
Accounts, eBay accounts, PayPal accounts, just all these different things that just treat you like a non-person, you know, whereas, you know, as I said before, I'm used to establishing relationships. We know each other. You know me. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to treat me like a number, like a stranger, somebody you don't know and you don't trust. You're going to treat me as someone that you have confidence in, you trust, and you're going to give me the benefit of the doubt. And that does not exist in this day and age of the internet. You know, a PayPal was another thing. PayPal, I was talking to another fellow that same thing. He had the PayPal account for like 12 years. You know, PayPal is notoriously a very bad company to do business with. If you're a small business person, many small business people that I have met that are online don't want to use PayPal. These are experienced small business people. They're serial entrepreneurs and they don't like PayPal. And, you know, PayPal freezes accounts, they rationalize, they give you reasons why they're doing it that make no sense. Maybe it makes sense to them, but if you were someone that they should be trusting because you've had a relationship for 12 years, you haven't done anything to remove that trust, and they aren't giving you any reason that tells you that you have done something to remove that trust. Therefore, there is no issue. It's just quirky online, you know, issues that crop up based on this age of the new dictators, where you're just a number and you're someone that's not to be trusted because you're online and you don't have a relationship, even if you've had an account for a dozen years, and even if you communicate with them. In this particular case, I was saying, one fellow had his account frozen, the other fellow that had a small e-commerce business, digital e-commerce, and because it was a small, you know, it's just making a few sales. It's not a big earner, you know, but it's a small website that makes 1 or 2 sales a day, you know, for a digital product. And so there's not a whole lot of maintenance on this website. I mean, he doesn't really need to check into it, but every once in a while. Well, it just so happened he kind of got distracted, and then this time he didn't go into the back end and check the transactions for a few weeks. Well, when he went back, he never got an email from PayPal. He never got a warning. He never got anything at all. PayPal had blocked his, he was not receiving. People were trying to purchase his digital product, and they were not able to because PayPal blocked the ability to purchase on the website. And when he followed up on it, it turns out that they just had some questions about a utility bill that had already been submitted. Okay, and this is on an account. It was not a new account. It was not a new application. I mean, you know, the guy complained. He's like, excuse me, but I just lost 3 weeks worth of sales because you had some questions that you could have contacted me and said, we have some questions, please contact us. Instead, what you did is you blocked it, and I lost 3 weeks worth of sales. So that to me is the age of the new dictators. Remember, we're giving you the other side of the story, so we're not really interested in hearing your story about how everything works perfectly for you all of the time. Remember, all of these people have times when everything was working perfectly too. So remember that we learn more when things aren't working perfectly than when they're working perfectly. Because when things are working perfectly, there's nothing to do. But when they're not working perfectly, there's a whole lot more to the issue, and there certainly is a lot to learn, isn't there? So that's why we make these videos, okay? There's other reports, for example, in some of these places that have been touted for many years by especially RAM magazine, Retire Abroad Media and magazines, and other people on the internet. I'm sure they were good places in the beginning, but as things go over the internet, the way things seem to be progressing is that over the years, the traffic builds up to such an extent and such a level that it appears as an extraordinary volume of demand to the providers. And so they start putting up barriers and they start becoming more difficult. And so one of those issues is banking in Panama. Nowadays you could have a banking relationship and then out of the blue they'll come up and say, well, we need this piece of paper, well, we need this tax return, but why? Did I say I had taxable income on that year? Why are you asking me for a tax return? I didn't have any taxable income that year. If for any reason whatsoever maybe you're not an employee and maybe you sold a business last year, okay, and you lived off of the sale, and you had no taxable income for the next year or two because you lived off your savings or whatever, maybe you had taxable income abroad and you didn't have any taxes due, For example, there's a lot of places where you don't pay any capital gains taxes. For example, in the States, you can sell a house and there's no tax due, there's no filing due, there's no reporting due. So, you don't necessarily, everybody's going to have a tax return, for that year. You could have sold a house for $500,000 and went abroad and lived on $12,000 a year for the next 5 years and not owe any taxes, So everybody doesn't fit into some kind of box where everybody's got this piece of paper in order to continue your relationship. So what I'm saying is, as being somebody that's old school, that's used to having a relationship with their banker, if you have a relationship with your banker and you can sit down and talk with them on a friendly basis and explain to them, well, this is our situation, then they're not going to come up with later and say, well, we need this piece of paper or we're going to block you. They don't even say, or we're going to block you. They just block you. So this is the age of the new dictators. And then when you get letters from compliance departments, they never sign their emails. They never put their name on it. So this is why I call it the age of the new dictators, because they hide behind these, they're hiding. They're like Wizard of Oz movie where they're hiding behind this thing. They're just people. They're just people, but they hide behind this veneer where there's no name, they don't sign the emails, and you can't not, you know what that means, right? You can't hold them accountable. If they mistreat you, who do you report? If you want to go to whoever they answer to and say, well, this person mistreated me, they did this, who was it? They don't even sign their emails. They sign their emails compliance. The age of the new dictators, What can be done about this? Well, now more than ever, as the internet is growing, more and more people are coming on it, the volume and the people that get established, the volumes are increasing and barriers are going up, so it's as important as ever to have relationships. It's more important than ever to do that if you're going abroad. But this begs the question, if it's that complicated to go abroad, you'd better have a really good reason why you're going abroad, because it isn't necessarily going to be easier than just staying home. And if you liked the video, you know what to do, and subscribe. Have a nice day.